Is that your version of the clapperboard?
That's what you do. Apparently, that Phil does that.
Okay. So it marks the start, so you don't have all of this.
That's right.
about,
Yeah.
Sorry, Phil.
Because there's a separate camera, and apparently, if I really get stuck, I can plug it
you go back to
do
the,
that and work it on that.
Yeah.
So Nick, welcome and thank you. Can you just introduce yourself briefly? Just say who you are, where you're from, what you're doing.
Nick Baker. So I'm currently Superintendent of the Western Fells Circuit, and I'm going to be a deputy. I've got my deputy badge. I'm going to be a deputy superintendent in the new Cumbria circuit, and I came to Cumbria last August, started last September.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just set my timer because I did Helen's last week and I couldn't. On the camera there's a little clock and I couldn't see it, so we finished early.
Okay.
One person 10 minutes, 1:10. That's our circuit number. So, and you came from?
Came from Dundee. I was superintendent of the Angus, Dundee and Perthshire circuit, which
sounds fantastic.
Lovely part of the world, and I thought, moving, I'm not going to get that combination of sea and mountains again. Well, I have. West Cumbria does the job very nicely. Thank you very much. It's great. I had some of my childhood in Brampton. So
of course, yes. So you're not a new boy here.
I'm not. No, Cumbria does feel like home, and I've been made very welcome.
Excellent. And interesting that you've come from Scotland because they're on a similar journey to us.
Yeah.
They're only combining 6 circuits into one, except that's a whole nation and bigger. Is there any similarities? And I guess you was just there at the start of that process, and then you left it. So
that's right. A little bit. We're facing a lot of the same issues. I mean, the geography is obviously much bigger in Scotland than it is in Cumbria, with all those kind of attendant issues and finding people to do roles, and what is the role of the Methodist Church in Scotland, what is the role of the Methodist Church in Cumbria, and in Scotland they're conflating it with the district, so it's one circuit, one district. It's the same level, so that gave a different dimension to it, to what we're doing here. So.
Yeah, that's a great question, isn't it? What is the, Mike, I'll come back to that. What is the purpose of the Methodist Church here in Cumbria now?
Yeah.
What's our purpose? Think on that, folks. Yeah. Answers.
You're the superintendent. I'm asking you.
Answers on a postcard. That's excellent. So, 3 questions, common questions. First of all, I'll ask you, who's your hero?
Hero? Well, of course, the answer is always Jesus, isn't it?
Yeah.
But aside from that, I'm going to do a Trinitarian approach here. My grandfather, who ran off and joined the Navy in the First War, served out in Russia amongst other places, came back and saw the German fleet being scuttled up in Scapa Flow in 1919, and from that became a pacifist. Very involved in Norfolk, fighting for agricultural workers and standing up for their rights and trade unionism. So he had a big impact on me, and then I guess theologically Dietrich Bonhoeffer. So having had that strong influence of pacifism, I then began to learn about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who then ultimately got involved in the plot to assassinate Adolf Hitler, and that started raising questions. And Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for many years, and introduced me to the whole concept of anti-apartheid, because I'd had some of my childhood in Kenya, and there he was locked up in South Africa, effectively for being black. Right? That's what it boiled down to in my estimation. So raised a lot of questions for me, which made me go back and re-examine and my own understanding of peace and all of that. So.
Excellent, thank you. That's really interesting. I mean, it is interesting in how life brings to us our heroes. There are those in our family, in our formation and in our history, and there are those then around who
Yeah.
You know, some who shape the world or shape the church. And, yeah. Can you ever just pick one? No. I think that's really good. So, hero hardship. Can you name a hardship?
Yeah. Back in 2020, the lockdown, COVID, and all of that. I got COVID in March 2020, so quite early on. It was okay, fairly mild, but then I just couldn't recover. And it kept reasserting itself every 48 hours, and so we were all trying to do new stuff, video and Zoom and all of that, and I was trying to do all of that and try and keep the circuit going and how on earth we function and all of that, and I was just in this constant cycle, and I got sort of limped my way through to June, at which point the GP said, you've got to stop completely. Right. And I did, and because I just wasn't getting better. At that point, we didn't know what long COVID was. That wasn't a concept back then. And I just had to rest completely, which was really hard because there was the church, this huge international crisis, and I had to stop completely and just be looked after, and I was exhausted. Everything was a real effort. And that was really challenging because I didn't know, is this it for the rest of my life? Because nobody knew. Nobody knew. It was a really weird kind of impact, and I was off completely for 3 months. Very grateful to Petra, my wife, who looked after me, and folk in the churches who were praying, because there were plenty of days where even that was an effort.
Right.
Just that weight, and I spent a lot of time sleeping and things, and just did not know, and that uncertainty, is this the rest of my life, was really challenging.
And what has that taught you for Nick Baker now?
To remember to slow down, to try and take time out. It's left a scar. I'm not quite the same person that I was, and just to, I guess, remember that we're all wounded in one way or another, and we carry those scars with us, and a bit like the story of the man on the stretcher being let down through the roof by his friends for Jesus, that actually you realise, you're the person who's on the stretcher, you're the one in need, being carried by others, and that's okay.
I just love that. I love that sometimes, take it to the Lord in prayer, we sing and all of that, and I'm never going to doubt that. But sometimes we get to the other side of that, and it's not I can't pray, I don't need to pray. It's I can't pray, but I know I'm resting in prayer.
Absolutely.
And in a sense, that beyond prayer, and you can feel and sense and know that presence and that strength and that protection around you, even though you can't do anything about it. It just holds you and lifts it. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
You're held by others. You're carried by others.
We need to be, I think, a bit more gracious to God in allowing that to happen, because sometimes, oh no, I should be praying. No, rest in me. That's what it says, isn't it? Brilliant. Let's look and see if we can all just slow down a bit. Rest in God. That's good. So thank you, and thank you for sharing that. Let's have a highlight.
Well, a highlight then, I guess, was a couple of years after that, as I eventually did start to get better, was I had a sabbatical, and I was determined that I was going to do something physical, and so I started training. I did some study around Galatians, which was brilliant, but alongside that I walked the John Muir Way, which goes from Helensburgh on the west coast of Scotland to Dunbar on the east coast, and I did that with my elder brother, who a few years before he'd walked from Land's End to John O'Groat. So this
Oh,
was just
right.
a mere walk in the
Right,
park for
yeah,
him, but
yeah.
it was a really big thing for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And we did it in 9 days. We stopped at B&B's, who was coming out of COVID as well, so you couldn't always get you could get a bed, you couldn't always get a breakfast, and that's where we are. And we had some right adventures on the way. Got to. I was going to go across the Forth Bridge on the train, but there was a train strike, so I had to walk across it. And, it was. I booked it months in advance. Thank you, Lord. It's like, but no, to complete that was wonderful. 135 miles. Avoided as many of the big hills as I could. I'm not good with the big hills, but I could walk on the gentle.
Excellent. What an achievement.
Yeah.
And that's our 10 minutes. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to work with you.
And you.
And
God bless.
look forward to being part of the Cumbria circuit with you.
Absolutely.
In these coming days. Thank you.